What is up, ladies and gentle dudes? Kyle here, and today I'm going to be doing my year-end wrap-up for 2018. I know it's been a while since I've actually done any videos on YouTube. YouTube just kind of shit the bed and ruined a lot of things for creators. So it's been very difficult for me to get motivated to actually do anything. I saw it coming a little bit last year. I tried to do a podcast. Didn't really pan out, obviously, because I did like 3 episodes, which was my year-end wrap-up, and then I was done. I'm going to do things a little bit differently this year. We're going to go over a lot of stuff, because I missed a lot of stuff this year. So, what we're going to cover is best movies of 2018, worst movies of 2018, best TV shows, music, and video games. So let's go ahead and kick this off with the best movies of 2018. We should head into the new year having something nice, to look forward to. So if you haven't seen any of these movies, I highly recommend them. Definitely got to check these out if you haven't seen them. Side note, I'm not really going to be including a whole lot of superhero, comic book style movies, any like really big blockbuster sequels and things like that. There might be a couple, but I don't want to have, Black Panther, Avengers Infinity War, fucking 30 goddamn blockbuster movies. Everybody knows that those movies are going to be enjoyable or they're going to be awful. There's not really an in-between. Maybe they'll just be okay sometimes. The film we're going to start off with is Sorry to Bother You.
Cash, you are awesome.
Oh yeah! Alright!
Some for the homies and some for me!
Hell yeah! That's right!
This is probably one of my favorite movies of all time at this point. It took a little while to actually get to the theater that I went to go see it at, but my god, this movie was amazing. It's the first film by Boots Riley, and he is a musician. He's had this idea for Sorry to Bother You for years and years and years, and he finally was able to secure the funding and get this film made. And I think that has a lot to do with the climate of cinema right now and the advent of African American filmmakers. And I'm so excited that we finally get to hear this story told because it was so awesome. And what this film essentially is, I don't want to get into spoilers. Side note, no spoilers for most of the best of movies. I'm trying to avoid that as best as possible. It's about a man who essentially works in a call center, and he has to work his way up to become a power caller.
You're going upstairs, power caller. They even have their own elevator.
Welcome, Power Caller. I hope you did not masturbate today.
Something about this call center is a little off. It's a little mysterious, a little weird, and my God, does it just delivers on all fronts there. The thing about Sorry to Bother You is that it is one of the most inventive movies I've ever seen. Lots of amazing art direction, lots of style, great soundtrack, great cast, great writing. Everything about this movie is pitch perfect, and it just hit all the notes that I want. And I'm sure there's going to be some people that aren't going to get it or enjoy it. But the thing is that it's very, very cool. It reminded me a lot of Michel Gondry films, like Science of Sleep, maybe a dash of Be Kind, Rewind, and of course like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. The characters are quirky, but they're also kind of grounded in reality. But they have these larger-than-life personalities and aspirations, So, the thing that I really enjoyed about this movie, too, it really encapsulates what it's like to work in a retail or a customer service position, especially if it's a bad one. I'm not saying that all customer service jobs are bad, but this movie pretty much nails what it feels like when you're in one of those bad situations.
This is telemarketing. Stick to the script.
Hey, hello. Mr. Davison, Cassius Green here. Sorry to bother.
And then it takes it a step further and then just goes past that. Again, nothing but praise for this film. Like I said, fantastic cast. It's got Tessa Thompson, who was in Thor Ragnarok. She's going to be in the upcoming MIB. She was in Westworld. It's also got Lakeith Stanfield, who's a fantastic actor. You could see him in Atlanta. He's also and get out for a little bit. The thing is that to succeed in this call center that he's working at, he's got a white guy voice that he puts on, and his white guy voice is David Cross, which just elevates this to a whole other fucking level. It's fantastic.
You want to make some money here? Use your white voice.
My white voice.
I'm not talking about Will Smith's wife, like this young blood.
Hey, Mr. Kramer, this is Langston from Regal View.
As always, we'll be getting that out to you right away.
You're doing so good with the voice thing.
Holla, 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 holla!
Oh, this film is jam-packed. It's just so fun. Highly recommend it. I believe it's on Hulu right now. Definitely check it out if you get a chance. The next film, obviously I have to address this one. It's one of the few comic book blockbustery movies that is on this list. And that is Avengers: Infinity War.
Fun isn't something one considers when balancing the universe. But this does put a smile on my face.
I mean, there's no way I could not put this movie on the list. You know, it's a culmination of 10 years of work. And what the Russo brothers have done with this film was just amazing. It's insane. It's really difficult to even comprehend on some levels that it was able to come together this way. Now, of course, you know, plot threads are picked up and dropped in between the Marvel movies. Not everything pans out the same. Obviously, Thanos had to go and get the Infinity Gauntlet made, so it's not like the end credit teasers from previous movies necessarily counted. But, I mean, this is the best possible end result for what could have happened with Avengers. I think the only downside to this film, honestly, was that you already know what's going to happen next in some way. You don't know the specifics, but it was very clear that with the ending of Avengers Infinity War, it was so they could scale back and just focused on the main Avengers. That being said, I walked out of the theater and it was a trip, man. That ending was pretty brutal, especially for a film that was, you know, PG-13, and I guarantee you there were parents bringing their kids there. And I'm sure a couple of them were probably pretty traumatized. And there's some parents that had to sit down and go like, it's not real. Like, don't worry about it. Like, stop freaking out. But, I mean, Josh Brolin does a fantastic job as Thanos. The whole cast is fantastic. It's fun. It's dark. It's humorous. But it furthers the Marvel Cinematic Universe even more than it had before. And, honestly, it could almost be a stopping point for the entire thing. If you follow these movies, I think you're going to want to go and see Endgame when that comes out. But for the time being, I mean, they nailed it. Marvel Studios, they're the fucking best. That's why they have made all of the money, you know. Kevin Feige is insane. He's probably got flowcharts on flowcharts on flowcharts of how everything fits together and how everything works. And I can't wait to see how the next 10 years are affected by this and what Marvel brings next. Disney, you got to step your game up with Star Wars. Go back to the drawing board, look at what Marvel's doing, and apply that to Star Wars because it's on fucking life support now. We're not going to talk about Solo at any other point than this. It was okay, but it is not on the level. That is not how you do it. Look at Marvel. Now, the next film we're going to talk about is Annihilation.
It's making something new.
It was a Natalie Portman film, came out a little bit earlier this year, directed by Alex Garland, who's a fantastic filmmaker. His debut movie was Ex Machina. Although recently, or fairly recently, it was revealed that he also largely directed Dredd, which makes a lot of sense because that movie was far better than it should have been. But this guy, he's great. He wrote Sunshine, which is one of my favorite Danny Boyle movies that's ever been made. And then, like I said, Ex Machina, and now this. Annihilation essentially is a very loose adaptation of a book series condensed into about 2 hours. But the basic premises of it is that there's a zone, and there's this thing called the Shimmer, which is basically like this weird like rainbow energy wave that encompasses this entire area and is slowly growing. And so a team of researchers has to go in there. Natalie Portman's character has to go in because her husband comes back to her, and he was one of the ones that went in there before her. And so she wants to figure out exactly what happened to him and get to the bottom of why the Shimmer is here. It's a very heady movie. It's very hard sci-fi. I'm sure if you've seen the trailers, you probably thought it was going to be like a horror movie or an action flick. It's not really either of those. It's a pretty hard sci-fi film. There are some pretty intense moments in there.
It's like they're stuck in a continuous mutation. Anything interesting in there? No. Sharks have teeth like that. It's not possible.
But I swear to God, like, the ending of that film just made me cry. There's a lot to say about the nature of humanity, the way we treat others, the way we interact with our environment, and it was so unexpected. I knew that it was going to be awesome because I just love Alex Garland's work, but I did not know what to expect going in, and I'm so glad that I didn't. I didn't want to spoil anything for myself with that one. But I will say that if you're a fan of Ex Machina, if you're not necessarily a big action buff, or you're a person that has a fairly open mind, you go into this film and you just keep your mind open, you're going to enjoy a lot. That's all I have to say about that one. Cinematography is amazing. Special effects are just fantastic. Soundtrack is immaculate. That's the one thing that I will say. The soundtrack really sells a lot of the bigger moments and set pieces in that film. I think with a different soundtrack, it might have been a little bit more subdued, but I don't know. I still think it would have been pretty solid. Another one that I really enjoyed was Unsane.
Last night.
Hello?
Must be insane.
What happened over? A dead body was discovered.
Must be insane. Must be insane. Must be insane. Must be insane.
I'm not crazy!
He's here.
Or maybe it's all in my head.
Now this one was a Steven Soderbergh film, very low budget, produced by Amazon Studios, and starring Claire Foy. Other than that, the cast isn't really that stacked, but it's great. It's a really interesting movie. It's about a woman who's got this really insane stalker that she moved halfway across the country to get away from, and ends up in this mental hospital because nobody really believes her when she starts saying that she thinks he's coming back. And it turns out that the guy is working at the hospital, or is he? You don't really know at the start. The film does give you some definitive answers on that front, and so that's probably one of the downsides of it. I would have liked it to be a little bit more ambiguous for a little bit longer, but at the same time, it's a really cool thriller, and you don't see a lot of these like old school like throwback films anymore. It reminded me a lot of like Roman Polanski movies from like the 70s. The thing that was really interesting about this film, though, is that it was directed and DP'd by Steven Soderbergh, and he used an iPhone to shoot the entire movie. And, you know, sometimes that can be kind of a gimmicky thing, but it really worked in this scenario. It had this really gritty quality to it that created this sense of unease. It was not necessarily, you know, all handheld. There were some locked off shots, but it made you feel uncomfortable the whole time, and it really got you in the mindset of the character. And a lot of films these days are just very flat and shot kind of the same way, so I like to see something different on that front. Performances were great all around, and the story was really engaging. It kept me on the edge of my seat the whole time, even though I might have known, you know, what was going to happen next. There was this voyeuristic quality to it that just made you uneasy the entire time. And it's definitely one of those smaller films that I think did not get as much attention as it should have when it first came out. Did get a theatrical release, but honestly I don't think it was around for very long. So definitely, if you have Amazon, check out Unsane today. It's on there. Great movie. It's not too long either. You know, I think it's an hour and a half, maybe an hour 40 minutes. It's great. The next one we're going to talk about is one of the better horror movies this year. And of course, I'm sure most people have heard about it. It got so much buzz when it came out, and for good reason, and that is A Quiet Place.
Who are we? If we can't protect them, we have to protect them.
Movie starring John Krasinski and Emily Blunt, where the whole premise is that they live in a world where monsters are attracted to sound. So it's this post-apocalypse, but one that's not very similar to anything else you've seen before. Way different than any of these fucking stupid zombie movies that have been coming out lately, or alien invasion flicks, or anything like that. It's just a very contained story about a family trying to survive in the woods with these creepy-ass monsters running around that are just brutal as hell. Of course, with a film like this, the sound design has to be on point, and the whole time, it was an experience to see it in a theater. So if you haven't seen it yet, you are missing out a little bit by watching it at home, honestly. What I would recommend for sure is if you have a way to listen to it with headphones. I'm sure a lot of people have consoles and things like that. Put the headphones on, turn the lights off, and really get into the mindset as best you can. Because when I was in the theater watching this film, the audience was electric. Like, people were super quiet. Usually I'm used to people on their cell phones or, you know, chattering in between scenes, and it was breathless. You know, people were just completely dead silent. People weren't even wanting to eat their snacks, you know. Like, I felt guilty opening like a box of M&Ms or something when the movie first started. I had to wait until, you know, there was like a loud bang or something like that so I could quickly open it up so I wouldn't spoil the experience for other people. And it was fascinating to see that kind of like group dynamic where everybody was like, okay, we all gotta be fucking quiet. You don't get that type of experiential cinema very often, so I think that was the thing that made this movie the most powerful. Of course, the story was very good. John Krasinski, you know, my main experience seeing him was on The Office as Jim Halpert. I know that he's Jack Ryan, and he's done some action films, like he's done like 13 Hours and things like that. You know, it was nice to see him in a completely different light that was unexpected. And he has a real strong affinity for the genre. The cool thing, he directed it too. It was a fucking family effort. It was him and his wife, and they made a movie together, and that was cool because you also don't see something like that a lot either. Great set pieces. It's very bombastic, very unnerving. I heard rumors that they're gonna do a sequel. I'd be okay with seeing a sequel, but at the same time, I think that if he has other ideas, I would love to see what else he can come up with, because I don't know if you're really going to be able to replicate what made A Quiet Place so fun and unique in the first place. So, highly recommend that one. Again, it does have some caveats. I would say it is substantially better in a theater, but if you have like a VR headset, that could be a good way to watch it too. So yeah, check that one out for sure. The next film we've got on deck is Upgrade, and this film was fucking badass.
Stan, what do you think I should do? Move, Gray.
Man, you are persistent.
I cannot allow us to be killed. We are going to finish the job we started.
You didn't know that I'm a ninja.
While I am state-of-the-art, I am not a ninja.
This is the second film directed and written by Leigh Whannell. He was a co-writer of the original Saw film, and he had a lot to do with the other films. The first movie that he directed was actually Insidious 3, which was okay, but this one he really had some opportunity to shine. So this was his first original film. The synopsis of this film is that there's a man who gets in an accident. They put an implant in his head. It's a super experimental, and it allows him to walk again because he's been paralyzed from the neck down. But he also is kind of thrown into this whole shadowy underworld, and he's trying to get revenge because these people caused the accident and killed his girlfriend in front of him. The implant gives him some enhancements, some cybernetic enhancements that allow him to do some really badass stuff.
I need your permission to operate independently.
Permission granted!
Thank you.
Stay down, man. Stan, he's got a knife!
I see that. We have a knife too.
It was really funny to see this too, because it kind of just came out of nowhere. Trailers were showing every once in a while, and I was just like, you know, this looks kind of quirky and interesting. Trailers don't really do it justice, though. I saw the reviews and I was like, I have to check this one out. I was really excited for Venom for a little while, I'm not gonna lie. And I feel like this film came out before Venom, and it does what Venom should have done, and it's substantially better.
You will be this honest, legless, faceless thing, won't you? Rolling down the street like a turd in the wind. Like a turd. Like a turd. Like a turd.
It's funny too because even the lead, Logan Marshall Green, he looks a hell of a lot like Tom Hardy, beard and all. It's great. It's gory, it's brutal, it's fast paced. It's got horror elements, action movie elements, hard sci-fi elements, humor. It's got everything, and it's in a neat little package. Movie was done for a super low budget. I think it was like $1 million, maybe $2 million at max. Honestly, if I didn't look it up, I probably wouldn't have known, because the special effects are fantastic. And Logan Marshall Green, his character is kind of thinly sketched, but his acting is on point. So, you know, there's some sequences where the implant takes over, and he's kind of like his head is doing one thing, and he's like amazed by the shit that he's doing. So he's doing all these badass, karate moves, and he's like, "Oh my god, what the fuck am I doing?" And he really sells it, which it's very hard to nail that kind of like that slapsticky style and not have it come off as totally goofy or over the top or just plain, flat out bad. But he toes the line, and he does a great job. Story's got some really fantastic twists and turns. You'll probably be able to guess what happens, but at the same time, it's not like a 2.5 hour movie. Like, there's so many of these fucking films that are 2.5 hours long, and they just drag and drag and drag, and then finally they're over, and you're just like, oh, thank God, can I leave? This film is short, sweet, hits all the high notes that you would want it to hit, and I actually would have been okay if this one was a little bit longer. I hope to see, maybe not a sequel, but possibly another film by him that handles similar elements and has the same style. If you're a fan of the old James Wan movies and the old Leigh Whannell movies, if you like Saw, if you like Death Sentence, it's fucking good. That's all I got to say about that one. Fucking check it out. I enjoyed it a lot. You know what else? It also reminded me of Hardcore Henry a lot. But not in the first person style, obviously. But it was really, really good. I enjoyed it a lot. Next film on my list is one of the most ingenious films I've ever seen, and that would have to be Searching.
We're not really that close.
She has friends, right?
Kind of.
Why did you invite her to study group?
I'm trying to get into Berkeley next year.
When was the last time you saw her?
She did not run away.
Local team has been missing since last Thursday.
She made a transaction of $2,500. I know my daughter. Where were you the night my daughter went missing? I know my daughter.
Look into her behavior also.
She gets a fake ID. I know my daughter. This is her keychain.
She was my best friend.
You broke his jaw.
I know my daughter.
I'm trying to help you find my daughter.
I didn't know her. I didn't know my daughter.
That was a new film starring John Cho, who you may know from Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle. But he does a great job in this film as a father who's looking for his daughter who's gone missing. And it is not shot like your traditional film, because this entire thing is set on one of these bad boys right here. A Mac computer. What's on the screen, the entire fucking movie, takes place on here. Using a variety of different apps like Google, Facebook, YouTube. The way that they handled it was very clever. It left you on the edge of your seat constantly, and the way that they utilized the computer screen to tell a story was very fascinating. They had to develop a really quick cinematic language. It was intuitive. It was a very genius experience. Another one that I think is probably better to see in theaters, just because it's one of those ones that's a little bit weird, but like it was trippy just seeing, like, there's one sequence where there's like a transition, and it's like the default Mac screensaver where it's just like this floating fucking rainbow colored thing. But it was like creepy and ethereal there, because at that point in the film something really tense had happened, and you're waiting and waiting and waiting, trying to figure out what the fuck is going to happen next, and you just see a screensaver. You're like, come on, let me know what's going to happen. And the film develops the cinematic language so fast. The first 5-10 minutes, the opening, the hook, whatever you want to call it, shows this entire story. It gets you up to the point to where you're invested in the characters right away.
Hey, Dad.
Hey, sweetheart. Where are you?
Study group. I'm gonna go all night.
Oh, one more thing. I want to
Bye,
know
Dad.
about the final you took today.
I just thoroughly enjoyed it. It was a fun mystery film. It was another great thriller. This year has been actually really good for thriller films, and is unlike anything I'd ever seen. The only other like experiments I've seen with this are like those Unfriended movies, but I'm not willing to watch those because they just seem so cheesy. Like, I don't want to watch a movie about a Skype ghost. I'm far more interested in a father looking for his kid and having to, delve into her social media to find her, because social media and technology plays such a big role in our lives these days. So it was great to see it utilized in a film like that. Also, what I really enjoyed about the film is that they made sure that they actually obtained the rights to show the actual logos for all these companies. So when he goes to Google, it's not fucking Bing or Zizzle or some, fucking knockoff. He actually goes to do a Google search. They even have, in the opening, they even have the old school YouTube layout, it was just fantastic. Like, it was weird because it was like this nostalgia kick real quick. I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. I forgot that they had like a 5-star rating. That's really cool. So that one, you just gotta check it out. Ending is a little I think that they tried a little bit too hard to throw off the audience with like a couple twists in there that I don't mind it, but I think that there was probably a slightly better way to handle it that wasn't so out of left field. Even though they do drop hints about it, but I think that it probably could have been improved in some ways. I also don't want to advocate for, see this coming. This is how you fucking see this coming. Also, I'm going to get into that in my worst movies, but let's move on. The next film that we have on this list is actually going to be Halloween.
He's waited for this night. He's waited for me. I've waited for him.
Get out! So long! Get inside!
You don't believe in the boogeyman?
He's here!
Michael! You should.
Can you close the closet door?
I guess you could consider it a blockbuster, but I'm a sucker for horror movies. It's very difficult to find horror movies that I enjoy these days, and Halloween was another great one. Halloween, it's a sequel to the OG Halloween, the one from the 70s. It is not a sequel to Resurrection or the reboots by Rob Zombie. It's a whole different thing that takes into account the first film and shares a lot of DNA with the first film, and it's very John Carpenter-esque. David Gordon Green does a fantastic job directing this one, and it was really interesting because Danny McBride actually had a hand in writing this.
I'm gonna pay for a blowjob and I gotta pay for a goddamn hotel room too? Well, that just seems like I'm spending too much money for nothing. I got a house. You can just get your ass over here and I can just do the blowjob here.
Both of those guys are known for more like comedic stuff, but they did a really great job handling this film. It's not a brutal, gory, fucking slash fest. It's definitely more in line with the original Halloween, which I enjoyed a lot. It is definitely a throwback film. It focuses on Laurie Strode essentially getting over or dealing with her PTSD and having to come to terms with the fact that Michael Myers is back out on the streets after being locked up for 30 plus years. And so the thing that I loved about this film was that it really focuses on a character that has become so iconic and so beloved over a vast period of time. Really gets into Laurie Strode's head. The subtext essentially is about abusive relationships and how to overcome them or having to confront them at some point in your life. And I thought that was a really interesting and strong way to handle a franchise that has been kind of festering for a little while. Not that I dislike the Rob Zombie films, but I feel like Halloween had really gotten off track, and I think that this film honored the original film that had come before. It feels very John Carpenter-esque. They got a lot of input from him, that's pretty obvious. And there are some brutal moments.
Excuse me, somebody's in here.
Hello?
I also like that it's very fast, it's very punchy, it's very in your face. So when Michael Myers kills somebody, it's real quick like that, and then you might see the aftermath of something, but you're not gonna see him, grab somebody by the neck and then just like repeatedly hack at their neck or something like that until their head lops off. You might see him grab them and then he'll cut away and then they'll cut back and you'll see, the aftermath of it, and you're like, oh shit, whoa. I want to see more horror movies like this. I would love to see them tackle Alien in a similar way. But that's probably never going to happen because fucking Alien Covenant came out and there was a Neil Blomkamp Alien movie that was going to come out that was going to be kind of similar to this, and it got scrapped. So thanks a lot, Fox, you fucking assholes. The next two movies on my list, I'm sure I probably could have found better stuff to put here. I would like to say an honorable mention to Bandersnatch, the Black Mirror film, which is not quite a film, so that's why it's not going on this list, but it does deserve a mention because it's very unique. It's a choose-your-own-adventure film set in the Black Mirror universe about a video game developer in the 1980s. Only you've gotten a chance to watch it once, but I'm going to go back and try and get all 5 different endings on that one. What I liked about it was that it incorporated video game elements and, traditional Black Mirror episode and allowed you to dictate how things would play out. And I think it's going to be really fun to actually go back and make multiple choices. It does give you some of that choice, so even if you just want to watch it once, it does give you options to go back and kind of fix whatever mistakes you made before. But it was really cool. It's one of these last minute things that just came out yesterday, and it was great. I want to see more Netflix content like that. So talking about Netflix though, one of the few, I think this is the first Netflix original film that I actually approve of. And it's going on my top 10 list this year, which I thought would never fucking happen. Because every single time I watch a Netflix film, I ask myself, why the fuck did I do this? I hate this. This is awful. This was not like that. And that film is Hold the Dark.
What's outside those windows? It gets in you. Find it. Kill it. Kill it. Kill it.
Hold the Dark is a film set in the Alaskan wilderness, and essentially the core premise is that this woman kills her son, and then she goes missing. Her husband is a veteran who just got back from Iraq, and he wants to figure out where the hell she went because she killed his son, and he wants her to pay for it. It's a really fantastic film, gorgeous cinematography, extremely well written. It is a very slow burn. I want to say the movie is probably 2 hours and 20 minutes, but hey, it's also a Netflix movie, so you can pause it and take a break if you like. But what I liked was that it kind of reminded me of like a Nicholas Winding Refn film, like Drive or something along those lines, but it wasn't so drawn out that you're just like kind of in this weird like zoned out state by the time you finish it, which is what I like about his films. But this one, there's some very dramatic pauses and slow moments that will kind of just ease you into what it's like to live in this very harsh environment. Again, another really brutal movie. There's some pretty intense scenes in there, and it's just gorgeous. Like I said, one of the best movies that Netflix has probably ever produced. It's substantially better than the previous two movies that this director had done, Green Room and Blue Ruin. Both of those films were written and directed by him, and this is his first film that he actually did not write, but he just directed, and he needs to keep doing that because his writing is dog shit. I have a review for Green Room. I can link it. He manages to keep the elements that I liked about those two movies and actually apply them to a story that's interesting and engaging. So I highly recommend this film. I don't think it got a whole lot of buzz. I know I saw a couple of articles about it on Facebook and things like that after it came out, and then just kind of didn't hear about it again. But it's a great film. I'm kind of shocked that it wasn't released in theaters, and I'd highly recommend adding it to your list once you get done with this video. And the final film on my list, again, I probably could have found a better replacement for it, but I thought that it would be an interesting dark horse candidate for Best Film of the Year, and that would be Creed 2.
This won't be the end of me. Or you. It can't be, because we're a team.
Now you know what you're fighting for.
Round after round, you learn more about yourself. And when I stepped in that ring, it wasn't all about me.
Now, I love the first Creed movie. Okay, it's fantastic. I think Ryan Coogler is a fantastic director. I thought Black Panther was awesome. And I don't really think that this film in any way could have topped Creed 1. But I have to give it props because it was substantially better than I thought it was going to be. I am not the biggest sports movie fan. I'm just not a sports guy in general. But if you give me a really good boxing movie, I'm in. I really enjoyed The Fighter. I really enjoyed the first Creed. Honestly, this is kind of embarrassing, but I haven't really watched a lot of the Rocky movies. So I probably need to go back and watch those at some point before I die. But the thing is that, everybody knows Rocky. So you get the gist. And so it was cool to see kind of that passing of the torch officially happen in on a lot of ways in Creed 2. Because Creed 1, it was kind of a passing of the torch, and then this one is like, okay, like this is going to be the Adonis Creed franchise now. This is not about Rocky Balboa. And it was awesome to see Ivan Drago and his son in this film. So the things that I like about this one is that it was a pretty solid sequel to a film that I really thoroughly enjoyed. Soundtrack was good, and then of course, if you watch any of the movies in the Rocky franchise, they're going to be emotional. They're going to go big with the spectacle and the drama elements, and this film really nailed that component of it. I'm not going to say that it's perfect because there were some pacing issues. There were some character moments that I really didn't like. I think they made they had some kind of steps back for Creed as a character. I think he learned a lot of lessons in the first one that didn't carry over to this movie, and he kind of had to learn them again. But at the same time, it's like this year has been so shitty for so many people. And I think that the reason why I chose this film is because it's like the perfect analogy for how I want to be going into next year and how I have tried to pull myself together through the end of this year. It's about rising up and picking yourself up and really, getting your shit together so you can go out there and you can fucking do what you gotta do. And that's the thing that I liked about that movie. It was inspiring. I walked out of the theater like, fuck yeah, Creed is the shit. He beat the shit out of that fucking Russian motherfucker. Just like... I'm not getting into politics. That's the thing, is that I love that movie because it was inspiring. Soundtrack, cast, writing, all that stuff, good. Obviously, it wouldn't be on the list if it wasn't good. Big thing that I really liked about it, though, was the way that they handled the fight scenes. Really fast, really fluid, and really punchy, really gritty and intense. And every hit you feel with impact. It was just boom, 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 constantly. When you see Adonis get hit, you know, I'm just going to go into spoilers for this one a little bit. He gets his ass kicked within the first hour of the movie, but, I mean, you don't have a movie without that. Like, you know that it's going to happen because he confronts this guy, and then, you know, it's like, if he wins, then the fucking movie's over. So obviously he has to lose in that situation. And when he gets in the ring with that dude, guy is just pummeling the shit out of him, and you're like, oh my god, because it's just so fucking visceral. It owes a lot to the way that it was shot, edited, and sound designed. Also, soundtrack was fantastic, and I really think that the director lived up to Ryan Coogler's vision for Creed, which I didn't think would be possible, because I love the first film. So, highly recommend you check that one out as well. And I think that about wraps it up for my best of 2018 list. Be sure to tune in when I do my worst of 2018 and my best of TV and all those other good ones that I got coming out. So, I will catch y'all soon. Thanks for tuning in. So that does it for our best movies of 2018. What did you think? Did you agree? Did you disagree? Was there something I missed? Probably not. It might even be on the worst of list. Who fucking knows? Anyway, here's our honorable mentions as well. Lots of comic book movies on there. Honestly, there wasn't a whole lot that I saw this year. There was some stuff that I missed, but I think that I covered the spread. So let me know what you think. I'm excited to hear, and I will see you guys again soon.